Thank you so much for being here and for presenting this really impactful documentary that I think will inform us all about all of these issues that are happening in Bolivia. I wanted to start off with your process, the development of this documentary. How did this story find you?
First, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, to do the screening here and to share my work with you. So the process started in 2015 when I traveled for the first time to Bolivia to help a friend to make another documentary about children living in the street in Cochabamba. And then just to make the story short, I just met a lot of environmentalists. Cochabamba it has been, problems with water scarcity from a long time. It was a city, iconic city, because that's where the water war in the year 2000 happened. So the people of Cochabamba and Bolivia fight for, pushing out a private company that wanted to privatize water. So this was a moment, a really important moment in the history, of Bolivia when it comes to water and water scarcity. Cochabamba has a lot of problems with water. So I started to, my first trip was to Cochabamba, and I met a lot of, environmentalists, and they started to tell me what was going on, the issue with water in Bolivia. I don't know how it happened, but I started to get curious and investigate, and at the end of 2015, so Lake Popo disappeared. Lake Popo is the second largest lake in Bolivia after Lake Titicaca. So I started to investigate and see what was going on in there. I'm a journalist, and an environmentalist, so I was really curious. And then I found out that it's not only climate change or the Niña and the Niño phenomenon, climatological phenomena that are causing the drought in the Altiplano region in Bolivia where we film. But the mining companies as well, diverting water from the river Desaguadero that, comes from, so it's like a closed basin. Lake Titicaca has, the water flows through river Desaguadero that flowed into Lake Popo, which was the one that disappeared. And then when I found out there's a lot of mining companies working since decades ago that were taking water for the mining production. So I was working in New York for a local newspaper, and I quit my job and decided to go to Bolivia and start to investigate and, do the production and start filming. So I traveled to all the communities that you saw here. I did that field work, and what I encountered was, communities being, deserted, people migrating to the big cities because of there's a lot of mining, water contamination, and water scarcity. So yeah, this is the result, what you saw today.
And tell us a little bit about how you build trust within the community, especially the relationship you build with Maria Rafaela and all of that.
Well, that was really hard because Aymara people are really close. People that live in the Altiplano are really not easy to open, and mostly to people that come from, outside, like me. I would call myself an outsider. Even though I speak Spanish, I don't, I'm not from there, so they obviously, it was really hard. Like I went to film in 2 different years. I filmed in 2016 and then 2017. The first year I stayed there for 3 months and a half, and then the second year in 2017, I was there for 4 months. So the first year, it was really difficult. Like anybody wanted to really tell their story. It has to do a lot too because, when you talk about environmental issues, I mean, mining is in the culture in Bolivia. I don't know if you realize this woman miners, Payiris, the cooperativistas woman. So it's really in the culture. Mostly in Oruro, where you saw all these images where we filmed most of the contamination, pollution. So it was really hard, and I had to I didn't find like a main character, which is what I wanted, and I wanted to find a woman. I at the beginning I wanted to do just a woman film, so everybody. Were a woman, like camera was, but at the end I couldn't do it just because, logistical issues. But I wanted a woman because women are always the ones that, there's a lot of women leaders in the communities and they always are the ones that kind of struggle most with water because they need water to clean, they need water to cook, water is in their, they kind of, maintain the family and support the family. So, so the second year was when I found Maria Luisa. So in 2017, because the first year I was like, okay, I have group, I film a lot of stuff. I went to all these mines. So there's a lot of different kinds of mining in Bolivia. I tried to kind of give a full scope of, cooperative mining, like all the cooperatives, but then this private, these huge mines that where you see these, fake lakes, which is like, this is bigger, big companies. And then you have the state-run minings, so which are, different. So this really, and it was really difficult for me to understand the different roles and how they play in the economy and how mining works in Bolivia. So the first year I was kind of successful filming a lot of mines and talking to some communities, but I still couldn't find my main character, which I wanted to be a woman, somebody, that cared about the environment and wasn't afraid of talking because a lot of these communities have a lot of water conflicts and conflicts among families themselves because, maybe the uncle is working in the mine and but at the same time, one of the, I don't know if you see one of the miners, it's a really short intervention, but he says, I'm working in the mine, but I cannot grow any food anymore because everything is polluted, there's no water. So this is what I encounter like a lot, that at first it was difficult to understand if you don't go there and see those conflicts and you see that people, of course, know that their water is being contaminated and polluted, but at the same time, the only source of income in this, in the Altiplano, in these isolated communities, is mining. Like, if you want to survive, you have to go, or you have to migrate. So that what I found, and it was kind of. Sorry, that answered your question?
No, that's great.
I think I'm talking too much.
No, and actually I was going to lead into you talking a little bit about how you made those deliberate decisions about the structure of the documentary. I mean, after all these trips going down there and capturing so much footage, what did you decide to keep versus what was left on the cutting room floor, right? How did you build that argument, the arguments you presented?
It was really hard to piece all this together because, as you saw, it's kind of difficult to understand. This is like an onion, right? Like, you have to understand how mining works in Bolivia first. You have to understand how these communities work and associate because they kind of work together, the lands. So they share everything. They grow. So they are called AIUs, which is, I had to learn all these social, first, and then, so I guess that was the first year, and then the second year is when I found Maria Luisa. Sorry, I forgot again. Can you just ask me the question again.
Yeah, just the structure of your documentary,
Okay, yeah.
and how you made those deliberate decisions.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
And I'll just say, I was really, I mean, from the beginning, I found the kind of the poetic tone, the spiritualism, the connection to the land. I mean, I was drawn in to that prologue, you know, asking that question, who's going to defend this, right? And that kind of was the leading question for the rest of the documentary. So I'm wondering how you made those deliberate choices. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really hard to put it together because of what I told you. There's different layers, and then the mining and understanding how everything works. So I picked these 3 different cases. So if you see, I don't know, you guys got this paper, but it helps you to understand a little bit how we structure the documentary and the main topics. So the funny part is, like, you see these people marching to the city of La Paz, this big march with 8,000 farmers, because a Chinese company is trying to enter their territories, and they don't know, the government doesn't want to confirm if they give these mining concessions. So that was one that's, access to information. So what these people were looking for was, like, the government to give them information, because they depend on this glacier for their agricultural production. So that was one of the main cases. But at the beginning, I was just going to focus on Lake Popo and why it disappeared. But then all these Chinese insertion and Chinese state-owned companies kind of came to me. I started to meet a lot of, activists, because I was always going to events. You can see filming. So people at the end, they knew who we were, and they kind of start to see, like, a familiar face in all the events and stuff. So they started to open up, some of them. And then this case with the mountain it goes together with the last case that you saw, the community meetings, was the same Chinese company. So in this case, people, what are demanding is to be heard, to participate in the decision making of if letting a company to enter their territories, their sacred lands, or their sacred mountain, right? The first case is Maria Luisa, which Maria Luisa is the main character, which is she's trying to fight for environmental justice after many, many years of being polluted, because, all these cooperative minings around Lake Popo that disappeared, which was main source of income for many people, because there used to be a lot of fish there. You used to provide tons of fish, actually, I found out, a decade ago. So these were the 3 main cases, and I made the connections through them. The 2 Chinese cases came to me. I don't know how, because I knew about what that was happening. I knew that the state was giving concessions to Chinese companies, but it wasn't going to put it in the documentary. But then the referendum happened, and the scandal that you see with Evo Morales' lover, which he was working for a Chinese company, and they were giving money to this Chinese company. So then you start and I started to investigate and ask, journalists and ask researchers, and they said, yeah, this is how it works. There's all this money moving, and because Bolivia is borrowing a lot of money from China, but the way it gives the money back to China is with natural resources. So there's no interest, so that's how, what's happening, not only in Latin America, but in Africa too. So a lot of Chinese companies are coming, to extract all the resources. So I had those 3 different cases that I filmed, and then the escazu agreement was being worked on. So the escazu agreement is this agreement that gives protection to environmental defenders. So this is like for the Latin America and the Caribbean is like a milestone, is something that is a mechanism that protects them. And I realized that these 3 cases that I filmed were the 3 main rights of the escazu agreement. But that was after I filmed everything. So So that's why I decided to structure it this way, even though you maybe, I don't know if you made the connections where you're watching the movie, but at the end you see that this, the Monty Yimane case is, is one of the rights accessing information. The Turco case at the end is the public participation, how people have to participate in the decision making, because what happened at the end in this case, where you see all these meetings and people disagreeing with the company that was there next to the government representatives, is that they didn't want the company to enter the territory, but the last word is for the mining ministry. Even though they don't want, they're gonna enter if they want to. So, and then, Maria Luisa is fighting for environmental justice and redressment. So I realized that those are the main topics. And that's what I decided to. And actually, because I haven't seen a lot of documentaries that talk about the Chinese insertion in Latin America or in Bolivia specifically. So I thought that was something really interesting to bring and to let people know that this was happening.
And just a quick question about that. What is the status of the escazu agreement? It's 2022, so.
Yes, so the escazu agreement entered into force today on Earth Day in 2021. So, and yesterday, I believe so, there were meetings in Chile, in the COP. There's a COP in Chile going on. And what happened, I can tell you specifically about Bolivia. So the Bolivian government kind of bring all these proposals for implementation, but they were not, they changed them. They were not they were not in concordancia, no estaban.
In agreement?
In agreement with the main escazu agreement. And what they wanted to do is leave out the public, the society, the civil society out, which is one of the main rights, is public participation. Let the people participate in the decision making in their own land. So that's been very controversial, and there's been a couple of articles in the press yesterday and today in Bolivia. And then I have somebody from a nonprofit, not a nonprofit, but an organization, environmental, that told me they called the Ministry of Environment and all this stuff, and they didn't even know, even though they signed this agreement, they didn't even know what the escazu agreement was. So, wow. So it's kind of, this is the conflicting issues, but it's really good that at least Bolivia signed it, because it gives ground to make laws, and then to somehow have environmental defenders protected from all this resource extraction.
Wow. Two more questions before I open up the floor for any further questions and to continue this discussion. What most surprised you about being down there multiple times, and maybe the progression, the change in the people that you interviewed in the area? What most surprised you about this process and seeing this community in this condition?
Well, if you, on a personal level, it changed my life. How people, share whatever little they have. They don't have much, but you go there and they share. So that kind of changed my way of being a lot. On a professional level, it's really hard to see people struggling and don't be able to, I was making a movie. I was kind of helping them, but you cannot give them money. You cannot give them anything, because as a journalist, that conflicts. It's a conflict of interest. So you can't really, get too personal with your subjects or with the people that you are. You just have to be so. And yeah, pretty much what I learned is a lot of, that's another, you asked me earlier, I learned a lot about the cosmovision, the worldviews of Aymara and Quechua people, which are really, really inspiring. Because I didn't know, I didn't do a documentary before about indigenous people. I didn't have much contact with indigenous people before I made this documentary. So it was a life-changing experience. I became somebody else after I finished it.
And you plan to go back?
I'm trying to. I'm still trying to go back and do the big screening, but it's been really hard because it's been with a lot of political coyuntura. ¿Cómo se dice coyuntura?
Pollution?
Pollution, and as we said, the president resigned. There was like a period where, a lot of violence happened in the country. It's been kind of hard for me. I'm trying to make it happen because a lot of people that are in the documentary are being, retaliated against. Like a lot of people are being, most of the people that you see, the government, for example, the CEDIF, the Center, Bolivian Center for Information, which is one of the main sources of, research about gas and mining. And resource extraction in the country has been threatened, and the government is cut a lot of funds. So the journalist that you see there, she no longer has her radio show. They kick her out somehow. She cannot. She's doing only online radio. The main characters to Maria Luisa, as she said, a lot of her community members don't respect her or have. She kind of now she's more into woman rights, so more of domestic violent rights. So she's not into environmentalism that much because of a lot of people, threaten her and stuff. So yeah, it's been. I still have to. I'm trying to do my best to bring the movie there and do the screening there so the people can see it. But it's been hard. And then COVID. That's one of the main factors because with COVID, I haven't been able. We finished the movie. We finished editing the movie in 2020. That was the beginning of the pandemic. So it's been really hard with the travel restrictions. So that's my next goal. I really want to go and show it.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing this movie with us. And I'm going to open it up to the floor for anybody who has any questions or comments or reactions to the film. If anybody wants to join. Yes, please. There is actually a mic. If you, thank you, Raul.
Hello. It sounds like the Chinese influence in Bolivia is part of the Belt and Road Initiative. I'm
Part
wondering,
of what, sorry?
the Belt and Road Initiative. It's a Chinese program in which they've been essentially sending money into countries to essentially buy them off for influence, creating spheres of influence around the world. Has that program influenced any other industries in South America, or has it been particularly sort of taking advantage of the mining industry?
No. Actually, they are given concessions about infrastructure, like bridges, big dams to stop water from flowing, like big projects. Actually, that most of the things that they have done, at least in Bolivia, I can't really talk about anywhere else in Latin America because my investigation is in Bolivia, is focusing there. And I can tell you that most of the projects that they open or were done with Chinese money because it was borrowed from the Bolivian government. Some of them don't work. The majority of them don't have good use. Is with, I remember like a sugar factory, bridges, a lot of infrastructure is being done by them as well, and it ends up not working. So then you can see, I can really tell you that what I'm gonna say is true, but what experts told me is that there's corruption behind that. So they grant money for them to do money invested in doing a bridge, but then a lot of money is kept under the, and it doesn't work, or it doesn't, they don't finish the project, or it's kind of like, it works like that kind of. So yeah, that's what I've been told,
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ana. That is a very powerful documentary, and I am making a lot of connections with what I presented earlier about Maxima. One of the qualities I appreciate in your documentary is that you hold back on the emotions, or at least it comes at the beginning, the affective appeal, right? And at the end, it's really heavy. Like the last part is like, oh my gosh. How did you decide that? Like, of course, you did that on purpose, but how do you manage that?
Well, I think there's a culmination. I really would love to be there longer to film more about Maria Luisa and her life, but I couldn't stay longer, visa issues, you can. So, but I really was trying to convey what she was going through, because as she said, she's been beaten by her own family, her own brother, because they are for mining. She's not against, but she just wants to be, the environmental laws to be respected. So I did that because she cried a couple of times to me, and in private as well. And it's really, I was hopeless. I didn't know what to do, because I'm doing a job there. I'm trying to, but at the same time, when you see that, it's like we have to let people see what she's going through. And a lot of people told me that they don't like that I put her at the end crying. They said it was too much. It was like a drama thing, blah, blah, blah. But I thought it was some part of her personality too, and the way she become really comfortable with us, with me and the cameraman, and I don't know if you realize, but Esther Balboa, which is the one that's talking about the worldviews, at the end she's crying too when she's doing the ritual in the lake, where she puts this base with it's an offering to the Pachamama. She's crying too, and she cried. And it was I don't know if you see her, but she was going through an experience. So we all went through an experience doing this, filming this. My cameraman as well. He swam in Lake Titicaca after filming. It was kind of like a rebirth. So we all went through, we met all of, everybody, was me, the cameraman, and the main characters. And it was like we knew each other from before. At the end, it was like we felt so comfortable with each other. And we decided to put all this. And we had to leave a lot of things out. And still we cut a lot of things about mining that maybe people, it gets a little boring with the, how they do mining things and stuff. But yeah, it was hard. Like I didn't know what to leave, what to cut, but then at the end, the editor and I made these decisions. And a lot of people like it, that Maria Luisa is showing her feelings, and
I think it was effective, because I think the power of documentaries is to move you too. Like you can be safe. We are safe right now, but why not share her anger, her indignation, her frustration, and leave some of that with us as the spectators, right? Like,
Yeah, and don't forget that it was really hard for me to get up, to find a person like Maria Luisa, because Aymara and Quechua people, but mostly Aymara, she's Quechua, but they are really close. Like, it's really, they don't show much feelings. They barely sometimes smile, or I don't know, you just saw the people in the streets, people are not like, because it's the Altiplano region. So it's then you go to other parts of Bolivia and it's a completely different story. Indigenous people are different, but this Altiplano is like a really cold weather, and people are really thick-skinned. I don't know how to explain it. But so I'm really grateful that I found her. She is great. Yeah, I am still in touch with her. Yeah.
thank you.
Can you give us an update on Maria Rafaela? What is she doing now?
Trying to do her best. She had a really hard time with COVID because, all these issues that you saw, plus, a lot of people were getting sick, but she's a nurse, but at the same time, she didn't want to, at the beginning of COVID, and she didn't want to get sick as well. We're going to people's houses. So she had a hard time making ends meet. And now the family is kind of recovering. Her husband got surgery too. And as I told you, she's like, going to other kinds, like she's still an activist, but she's now focusing more on women's rights and domestic violence rights, because in Bolivia there's a lot of domestic violence. And mostly through COVID, she was telling me like the rates kind of, a lot of the families being at home together. There was a lot of, a lot of going on when it comes to domestic violence. So that's what she was focusing most. But she's still, I'm sure, like she still goes to some environmental meetings and stuff. But yeah, the mines didn't stop during COVID. So you see them there, they were 24/7. They keep taking water from the rivers, and so that's the thing.
Wow. Do we have any other questions, thoughts, comments? Raul?
Ana, thank you very much. This is the second time I watched your documentary. The first time was in my computer, and I didn't really appreciate, like I did today because of the huge screen, how beautiful shots you did of the landscape in terms of the long shots that you do when you are even in the airplane, in this kind of very small plane, showing us the certification of the Lago Popó, when you're in the car and you're doing this kind of angle and picada. Those are like very impressive shots in terms of you don't need the people to tell you exactly what is happening because you have the image. But then you have the image, and then you have the power of the testimonies and what has happened to the people in their lives. And that's a really interesting effect because sometimes they are separate. So you can perfectly rely on the image and see what's currently happening. And then what they tell you give you like a very intimate perspective on how that landscape has been affecting their personal and direct lives. And what's even better now, and I notice it this time, is the simulation of the state in terms of providing all this kind of legality to explain to people how this is going to benefit them in their lives and how the mining will increase job opportunities and a better future for the community. So I think the most effective things that I see in this documentary this time was filming the landscape. Did you try different techniques on that? Did you have something in mind when you were in that place? How did you try to use the camera in those kind of situations?
So honestly, I don't even know how we made what you saw, because it was me and the cameraman. I was interviewing, I was looking for people doing the production, and my cinematographer was the only. I had a second camera with me. I take shots as well. It just it wasn't like really thought. We didn't have a script. The script that I done at the beginning had nothing to do with what you saw now, because at the beginning the movie was about the disappearance of Lake Popo, and then this all that you saw came up. So I can tell you, because it was kind of like a guerrilla filming. So you just have to be on the run and have the camera in the right place. I mean, there was moments that we had, more time to film. Obviously, we weren't in like a rush, but most of the documentary is kind of, oh, this person has given us an interview, let's run and do it, because it's not, I mean, it's different. And in Bolivia, things take longer when you do an interview, it may happen or it may not. So you have the opportunity to do the interview in the right moment. You just take the camera and do it. And yeah, I mean, I can't really tell you that we had anything planned, because what I planned never happened. So yeah, the cinematographer is really, is a really good cinematographer. He is actually making his own documentary now. He's from Barcelona, and he was younger there, because that was 2017, and now he has more experience. We're filming something else together, and he's like, yeah, I bought my own camera. So he's like, because the camera we used, it was mine, and he feels more prepared, more ready now. But I think the job that he done in this documentary is really good. A lot of people congratulate me. They didn't like the content of the documentary, but they like the landscapes. They say it's really boring, but I like the beautiful, pictures that you have. So that was good, at least,
Yeah, and I mean, those images are a way to preserve too. I mean, sadly.
I mean, we film in some glaciers, so a lot of the tropical glaciers in Bolivia, which is one of the other issues, are disappearing in Bolivia. So this is the main Cordillera Real, which a lot of people millions of people in Peru depend on these glaciers for growing food, for surviving. So yeah, there's a lot of, not this one that we filmed, but another one that I didn't film, but I was visiting, is running out of water. You can see that, so glaciers are disappearing, and these are really delicate ecosystems in these glaciers, and yeah, I mean, that's what's going on. You guys know I don't have to talk to you about climate change, but it's sad. It's really sad, because maybe, who knows? I spoke with a glaciologist in a university in Bolivia, and he didn't want to say in camera, because he didn't want to be like, oh, I saw that. But he told me, like, the glaciers are going to be gone soon. There's one already, that El Chacaltaya is gone. There used to be a ski, how you call it, una pista de ski?
Resort or
ski resort, and it's no longer working because there's no snow. So and that's being contaminated too, because they are giving concessions. These people were marching because of that, because and for them it's a sacred mountains. They believe that there's spirits that inhabit in these mountains, and they are the ones that protect them against everything, and so it's really spiritual for them. It's not only their source of income, the water that these glaciers provide and their home, but it's also something higher for them that means a lot. So
Wow. Maybe we have time for one more question, if anybody wants to raise a question or comment. If not, I will close it with my own question, which is, it's Earth Day, so I'm wondering if you could leave us with a takeaway, perhaps what you hope this documentary will contribute to the cause, the social justice issues that you presented, maybe some words of hope, and what do you hope this documentary will achieve?
I mean, I just wanted to show you guys, this is like a little window to something that you don't normally see, how these people, the culture of Bolivia, how these people, what are they fighting for, and just be conscious of, how you treat water, where, you know, the environment, like there's only one. I know it's really you know, it's like really cliche, but at the same time it's true. Like, you know, try to recycle more. Like, I love to buy clothes, so I'm trying now to recycle more of my clothes. I'm not buying that many. I'm trying to, you know, use longer what I buy. That's something that I'm sorry. It's something that I got, but I just try to. And when you buy things, what are the consequences of you buying this thing and not the other one? It has consequences, and these people are suffering them, of course, because a lot of the minerals, you know, that are taken from their country end up in our country. And this country too, I mean, here there's a lot of water scarcity too in the United States. You have California. So yeah, just, you know, be conscious of what you throw into the water. You know, like, mostly, I mean, maybe you're young, but, you know, for the new generations that are coming, you know, like, live the planet how you found it, or not how you found it, but better. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Ana, for sharing your documentary and for informing us of what's happening in Bolivia. Thank you all for sticking around for the Q&A, and I guess that concludes day one of the conference, and we will see you back tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.